Hello and welcome back to another episode of Biblical Unlocked. This show is designed to help build your habit of reading the Bible, understanding the Bible, and applying it in your daily life, as those who read their Bibles regularly have significantly lower symptoms of depression, anxiety, and anger, whilst also having significantly higher feelings of compassion, forgiveness, and a sense of purpose. So, if you enjoy episodes like this, please consider following and rating the show. It's free, helps me out a lot, and you can always change your mind later. And today we're going to be going through we're going to go through Leviticus chapter 6. And this is important because this is going to give practical everyday laws that are going to make the sacrificial system work. That is to say, rules for guilt and trespasses. We're going to have the commands that the fire on the altar must never go out, and that there needs to be a daily burnt offering procedure, and that the priest portions which are offerings which are holy to the priest, how are they meant to be eaten, how are they supposed to be a quote-unquote perpetual statute for Aaron and his sons. And the chapter is actually going to bind the rituals that we're experiencing, the rituals that we keep learning about, to actual justice, to actual provision that God provides. Okay, and Leviticus is following the previous chapters on sin and guilt, which we saw in chapter 4 and 5, and is going to provide the detailed mechanics. How do you make restitution? How is life at the altar going to be sustained? How are priests going to be fed from these holy gifts? Sin must be repaired, worship must be continuous, and the priests must be materially supported. Okay, so let's read through the first 7 verses, and then, first 7 verses, then next 5, and then the next 9, and then we're going to go through some deep biblical unlocks afterwards. Verse 1. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "When any of you sin and commit a trespass against the Lord, by deceiving a neighbor in a matter of a deposit or a pledge, or by robbery, or if you have defrauded a neighbor, or have found something lost and lied about it, if you swear falsely regarding any of the various things that one may do and sin, when you have sinned and recognize your guilt, and would restore what you took by robbery or by fraud, or the deposit that was committed to you, or the lost thing that you have found, or anything else about which you have sworn falsely, you shall repay the principal amount and add 1/5 to it. You shall pay it to its owner when you recognize your guilt, and you shall bring it to the priest as your guilt offering to the Lord, a ram without blemish from the flock, or its equivalent for a guilt offering. The priest shall make atonement on your behalf for the Lord, and you shall be given for any of the things that one may do and incur guilt thereby." So here we see the rules for guilt and trespass, and there is a restitution of 20% or 1/5. In verses 8 to 13, you're going to see the perpetual fire and daily burnt offering I was talking about. Verse 8, "The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Command Aaron and his sons, this is the rule of the burnt offering. The burnt offering itself shall remain on the hearth upon the altar all night until the morning, while the fire on the altar shall be kept burning." Verse 10, "The priest shall put on his linen vestments right after putting on his linen garments next to his body, and he shall take up the ashes to which the fire has reduced the burnt offering on the altar, and place them beside the altar." Verse 11, "Then he shall take off his vestments and put on other garments, and carry the ashes to a clean place outside the camp. The fire on the altar shall be kept burning, it shall not go out. Every morning the priest shall add wood to it, lay out the burnt offering on it, and turn into smoke the fat pieces of the offerings of well-being. A perpetual fire shall be kept burning on the altar, it shall not go out." Then verses 14 to 23 is going to concern priestly portions and holiness for food for priests. Verse 14 to 23. This is the rule of the grain offering. The sons of Aaron shall offer it before the Lord, in front of the altar. They shall take it from a handful of choice flour and oil of the grain offering, with all the frankincense that is on the offering, and they shall turn its memorial portion into smoke on the altar, as a pleasing odor to the Lord. Aaron and his sons shall eat what is left of it. It shall be eaten as unleavened cakes in a holy place. In the court of the tent of meeting they shall eat it. It shall not be baked with leaven. I have given it as their portion of my offerings by fire. It is most holy. Like the purification offering and the guilt offering, every male among the descendants of Aaron shall eat of it, as their perpetual due throughout generations. From the Lord's offering by fire, anything that touches them that shall become holy. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, This is the offering that Aaron and his sons shall offer to the Lord on the day when he is anointed, 1/10 of an ephah of choice flour, as a regular grain offering, half of it in the morning, half of it in the evening. It shall be made with oil on a griddle. You shall bring it well soaked as a grain offering of baked pieces, and you shall present it as a pleasing odor to the Lord. And so the priest, anointed from among Aaron's descendants as a successor, shall prepare it. It is the Lord's, a perpetual due, to be turned entirely into smoke. Every grain offering of a priest shall be wholly burnt. It shall not be eaten. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to Aaron and his sons, saying, This is the rule of the purification offering. The purification offering shall be slaughtered before the Lord at the spot where the burnt offering is slaughtered. It is most holy. The priest who offers it as a purification offering shall eat of it. It shall be eaten in a holy place, in the court of the tent of meeting. Whatever touches its flesh shall become holy, and when any of its blood is splattered on a garment, you shall wash the bespattered part in a holy place. A clay vessel in which it was boiled shall be broken, but if it is boiled in a bronze vessel, that shall be scored and rinsed in water. Every male among the priests shall eat of it. It is most holy. But no purification offering shall be eaten from which any blood is brought into the tent of meeting for atonement in the holy place. It shall be burned with fire. Alright, now time for some deep biblical unlocks. In verses 1 to 7, we saw the guilt or the trespass offering, the guilt in the trespass law, and it's clarified by the institution of a restitution, a confession, and a fifth must be added to what was stolen. So, when someone wrongs another, that is, steals, cheats, withholds what is holy, you have to first confess. That's what this Levitical sacrificial system implies. You must confess. You must make full restitution to the injured party. Full restitution. Let's say you stole a TV. They have to get a TV. Let's say it was a TV worth $1,000. You have to add 1/5 of the value. So you have to give them back the TV, pay them $200 because that's 20% of the value, and then you have to bring a guilt offering, a ram. So the priest can make atonement. What the law highlights is that there must be both moral and economic repair. Wrongdoing isn't only a sin to be forgiven, but it is actually a damage to be repaired. So, justice and mercy both require forgiveness, and forgiveness requires repair. So, ritual atonement without the restitution actually leaves the relationships fractured. That means there is some practical step that you need to take to repair the relationship. If you have stolen something, you must return it. Why? What about confession? Speaking the wrong aloud, making sure that you are truly sorry for your sin, is also another step in the repair process. And then the restitution, and then the 20%, the extra amount compensates, right, and humbles the offender, and it's again a tangible sign of repentance. Okay, then in verses 8 to 13, God commands that the fire on the altar be kept perpetually burning, and the priests are responsible to tend the fire, to add wood and to offer the continual burnt offering morning and evening. The fire is constant, and what that symbolizes is that there is a continual access and ongoing devotion before God. So, why though? Why does it need to happen? Why does the community need to have a constant access to God? All this is showing is that you must have perseverance in your worship, and that your access to God depends on your unceasing, faithful service, showing up every single day to give worship. And access to God depends on unceasing, faithful worship. And the responsibility of the priests, those who serve God, must keep the means of worship alive forever. So being negligent, being lazy, that is what threatens the communal or the connection of the entire community to God. This is why Paul writes in 1 Thessalonians 5:17 to pray without ceasing. It's analogous to this situation. Keep this burnt offering burnt without ceasing. Constantly increase your availability to pray to God. In verses 14 onwards, we read about grain offerings, and then what we heard was a quote-unquote perpetual statute. So in verses 14 onwards, we see that certain offerings, that is the grain offering with the choice flour, the oil, and the frankincense, portions of the sin and guilt offering, parts reserved from the peace offerings, they are set aside for the priests, and they are holy and to be eaten in the holy place, not taken out for common use. The chapter gives rules on which portions belong to Aaron and his sons, and confirms that this holy part of the meal, that is, some of the burnt offering, right, is going to be burnt for the Lord, and some of it is to be set apart for the priests, for them to eat. And what that means is the sacrificial system that we have here actually allows the priests to live without any financial strain. That is, they can serve without any secular worry, and that their provision is actually from the burnt offering themselves. But even what the priest feeds on is holy, and that must be treated with reverence, consumed in a sacred place, and not profaned by simply casual use. It's important, the perpetual statute that we saw, the Lord's provision is regular and institutional, and it's not ad hoc. Now, all of this is well and good, but how can one apply this into your daily life? Well, I'm going to talk about sin first again, as I usually do, with regards to lust, because this show was initially designed to help young men deal with sexual sin, and how that they can use the Bible, read the Bible, to help them deal with sin, to help them break away from the chains and slavery of sin. And Leviticus 6 insists that sin produces damage. That's what it says, right? That's why you need to repay all the money. That's why you need to return the goods that were stolen. That's why it needs to be confessed. That's why it needs to be repaired. That's why you need to have this ritual. But what this means is it's not merely apologized for. Lust often produces relational, financial, and spiritual brokenness, injury, right? So you have broken trust, you've got time theft, right? Because lust steals your time. It also implies that there's some emotional neglect going on, but maybe between your family members, maybe between a loved one. And the cure in Leviticus here is to confess, is to make restitution where people are harmed, and to sustain your worship. Keep your fire burning so temptation loses its grip entirely, and you need to rely on the support of the community, the priest's provisions that shares burdens, and this gives a holistic, tangible pathway out of secret sin. So, what do you need to do? Confess your sin, repair the trust, make restitution, and keep the fire burning. So that's it for this episode of Biblical Unlocks. This show is designed to help you keep up your habit of reading the Bible, understanding the Bible, and applying it in your daily life. I upload daily, so if you don't want to miss tomorrow's episode, feel free to rate the show and follow. Otherwise, just have a blessed day. And always remember, if you're not in your word, you're in your feelings. Godspeed.